So in the last video, we started to discuss relative valuation, and then you have to come up with a lot of comparable companies multiples when you choose any one of them, okay? But the problem here is that statistics matter a lot, okay? Be careful. Outlier problem, okay? For example, here I show you the time series average and median of PE ratio of all the firms in Korea in stock market since 1981 to 2014. Aren't they the same? No. You see it almost like parallel. They are very different. And then median is significantly lower than the the average of PE, which tells us that every year the outliers, extremely high PE ratio companies are screwing up the picture. And then not just the picture, but also you cannot use the PE ratios because of the extreme outliers, in a statistical manner. So you had better use median instead of average. That is a key issue. And there is something called winsorization we have to talk about. So here I show you a histogram of PE ratios of Korean companies in 2025. This must be a part of your homework, by the way. PE ratios before winsorization. Is it normal distribution or anything, you can, is it something you can claim that this has some meaningful distribution? You cannot see it visually already, that extreme outliers is screwing up the distribution picture of the big picture. 7,000 plus. Why do we have this kind of problem? Because of the denominator. When EPS converges to zero, then PE multiple explodes like this. So what do? I winsorize, at the 95th percentile. So what is that? Winsorization means like if PE ratio of a company is greater than 95th percentile, then replace those PE multiple value with the 95th percentile's PE multiple value. Replacing it. It's not truncating. Truncating is like dropping if the PE multiple is greater than 95th percentile. Forget it. But this one says, don't forget it. We need to bring in that data for our future analysis, further analysis. Just stack it up at the 95th percentile. So we replace it. Then how does the distribution look like? Well, PE ratios of Korean companies with winsorization at 95th percentile look like this. Majority of the companies belong to this interval, which is about 10-ish, right? 10 around. And then 20, 40, 60, and all the way up to 140. You can see that. You see this 140 is way smaller than 7,000 or 8,000, right? So 95th percentile winsorization have this kind of effect, and then that's why all these outliers were stacked up, in this distribution, the histogram, And now we have rather right skewed and a distribution with some reasonable degree of dispersion. Now with this you can run some regressions. However, with this previous unwinsorized version, you cannot run regression because too much outliers, they will screw up the regression inferences. How about PB ratio? The same thing. Only the degree is kind of rather smaller. The outliers, right? You see 1200, extreme observation are there, but still, what is important is that we cannot still use regression technique or anything based on unwinsorized PB ratio. Okay, after winsorizing at the 95th percentile, we're going to have this kind of distribution. Now it's right skewed and reasonably dispersed so that we can run some regression based on it. And then again, the winsorization, okay, brings this kind of interesting, funny histogram like this. Still, it's better than this guy. Okay, this guy is too much. And then 7.5 is cutoff point somehow. How about EV to EBITDA ratio? Okay, and we also have similar problem of outliers and then the distribution. Okay, so we have to winsorize at 95th percentile. Now it looks like this, quite similar. We have reasonably distributed so that we can run regression later on. And then how about the US market? I showed you only the Korean market 2025, but I show you PE ratio distribution of the US. You see 100,000 PE multiple. Remember, in Korea it used to be like 8,000. Be our guest. Now, if we winsorize it, it looks like this. You see a lot, 1, 2, 3, 4, more than 10 or around 10, you see the mode is occurring at that level, and it's kind of rather higher, okay? And distribution is kind of shifted upward a little bit compared to Korea's histogram, okay? PE ratio. We are gonna compare that time series graph later on. Anyway, similar thing for PB ratio in the US market. As we winsorize, we see a drastic difference. With our eyes, you can see it. You have to run a statistical test only with winsorized version of the data. And then EV to EBITDA as well, okay? A lot better to work with winsorized data. Now, how about time series median of Korean stocks and the US stocks when it comes to PE ratio ever since 1981? You see it over here. And the blue line is US market companies median PE ratio every year up until 2025 over there. And then orange line is the PE ratio median of Korean companies. I told you before, PE ratio seem to be higher on average in the American companies sample as opposed to Korean companies, right? That kind of difference is quite persistent. US companies tend to have higher PE ratios compared to Korean companies, except for this period. Let's see when this is. 1994, okay? Before financial crisis of 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. This is the period of dot-com bubble. And that 2008, 9, that's global financial crisis. We were all going to toilet together, right? Global crisis, you see that. Afterward, it was surging back again. And how about PB ratio of Korea and America? Consistently and persistently, this PB ratio, US companies' PB ratio keeps on being higher than those of Korean companies. Okay, there's no exception in this period, in this sample, this graph, right? Whereas PE ratio, there was a kind of an exceptional period, 1994. Okay, very interesting. How about EV to EBITDA multiple? Okay, again, U.S. companies, their multiple is a bit higher than those of Korean companies. Okay, but recently, these two things have been converging. Okay, very interesting phenomena. Was that happening? Is worth investigating in the future. Anyway, and then I also asked you in your homework to generate the industry median PE ratios for US and Korean companies. And here I show you top 15 industries by median PE ratios. What I'm trying to show you is that depending on the industry, you may have different PE multiples, right? Because of the nature, the fundamental is different. The fundamental variables that drive the PE ratios are different depending on the industry. Okay, I'm not saying that the multiples, the PE ratio drivers are completely different, but each component, the degree of influence coming from each component of PE multiples, the drivers, right? The weight seem to be different. Weight of each variable seem to be different across different industries. So that is why. So defense industry in the US tend to have higher PE multiples these days. Why is that the case? Maybe Iran-US war or geopolitical uncertainty. Okay, of course 2025 they did not have Iran war, so I was kind of wrong, but geopolitical risk has been high ever since 2022 Ukraine war, and then the Taiwan Strait, tension, all these kind of things. Defense, okay, and then electronic equipment, aircraft, and these kind of businesses tend to have higher PE multiples, whereas food products and apparels, they tend to have lower PE multiples. Electrical equipment and computers, they are in the middle somehow. But even in that case, these are top 15, okay, which means they still have higher PE ratios than the overall median. Okay, they are rather high. Okay, we cannot say this food product F&B has low PE ratio ever. No, we don't have that graph. It's just the top 15. And then median PB ratio, a bit similar in the sense that we have apparels over here and retail, rubber and things like that, computer, electric equipment, tech companies, defense company industries in the second row and things like that. Aircraft again. Now that was 2025. What about time series across different industries? I told you to draw a graph of it. So I show you some of these sample industries: computer software median, electronic equipment medians, and then pharmaceuticals and banking and petroleum and natural gas industry. Median PE ratios, their time series graph are shown ever since 1960 or before. Okay, what I'm trying to show, what I show you here is that that clustering by the industry is kind of persistent. Okay, you see the bottom is banking. Okay, their rock bottom doesn't change too much compared to other industries like computer software, Microsoft, or these guys tend to be tech stocks, and then they have very fast, how do you say, high growth potential. That kind of things, gets affected a lot by the market sentiment. But anyway, these kind of things, are quite persistent depending on the industry. Now the next set of slide and the video, we're going to talk about 4 steps to using multiples. So wait for the discussion. Thank you for watching.